Welcome to Bonn Park. I'm Sara Geidlinger.
And I'm Marshall Ward.
Marshall, we have good news this week. We have just broken 10,000 downloads for our podcast.
Yeah.
I'm shocked. We've got a tiny little homemade shindig happening over here, and I am so grateful to our community.
Yeah, I'm incredibly proud. Thank you, everyone who's been listening.
So today we have Nick Benninger.
Yeah, Nick is a local chef, a restaurateur, a columnist, and co-owner of Fat Sparrow Restaurant Group.
You guys might know him mostly for one of our personal favorites, which is Taco Farm in Uptown Waterloo. I was really sad when this interview ended because I feel like we just scratched the surface of what Nick does.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
We talk about everything. We talk about Taco Farm. We talk about his other restaurants. We talk about Tequila, and how he supports small farms right here in Waterloo, and basically just battling adversity like all restaurant owners right now through this pandemic.
Exactly. There's also a moment where Nick remembers Cindy of Oak Ridge Acres Farms, and I met Cindy a number of times at the Taste Local, Taste Fresh Food Link events, and she was always lovely, big smile, and very welcoming. It was great to get to know her in the little amount that I did, and I'm just so sorry to her family that's a big loss. Sorry that she's gone.
It's a really eye-opening episode about what it's like to be at the helm of a crisis as a restaurateur in town.
It really is. And I think we should have him back again because there's just so much to talk about. Here he is, Nick Benninger.
Welcome to Bonn Park.
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 Do you enjoy Bonn Park podcast?
If so, we would really appreciate it if you
Leave a review.
like, rate, subscribe, but most importantly,
Share directly from the platforms.
with your family and friends. That's the best way to get the word out to everybody, and more people will get to see our show that way. So click those like buttons and share our show. Thank you.
Thanks.
On with the show. This is it. Bonn Park is supported by Salenzi Foods, a Canadian brand with an Italian heart. Salenzi Foods gourmet products include artisan gluten-free pastas, antipastos like sun-dried tomatoes and smoky grilled artichokes, and ready-to-heat and serve organic sauces. It's amazing how much flavor is packed into Salenzi products, given how much their products do not have. No GMOs, no gluten, no soy, no eggs, no additives, and no compromise on taste. The Salenzi secret is a dedication to fresh, healthy ingredients prepared with Italian traditional care. No time to cook? No problem. Salenzi's delicious offerings can be combined to make quick, nutritious meals in less than 30 minutes. So whether you're unwinding after a busy day or preparing a feast for your family, you can count on Salenzi quality. Check out salenzi.com and find their fine foods locally at Sobeys, Farm Boy, and Charles Quality Meats. We are supported by Singer's, Canada's best Caesar mix. Their mildly spiced mix delivers classic Caesar flavors. The spicy one kicks up the heat a notch, and the vegan mix combines the best of both without the shellfish and no sugar. Singer's all-natural mixes do not contain preservatives, artificial flavors or colors, MSG additives, and are all gluten-free. And Singer's mixes aren't just for drinks. The rich, savory flavors are perfect in sauces, marinades, and more. Singer's has something for every Caesar lover. You can find Singer's Caesar Mix at Sobeys stores and online at singersmix.com. And you can find them on Instagram at Singer's Caesar Mix. Bonn Park is supported by Mema Foods International. Mema is proudly Canadian, but their products taste like they're fresh from Italy. There's a taste of Sicily in every Mema pasta sauce and soup, aptly named Just Sauce and Just Soup, along with other easy-to-prepare meals and specialty products. Made with fresh local ingredients and packaged in reusable glass jars, Mema's Just Soup will warm you right through, like their butternut squash and Chef Dev's world-inspired Italian sweet potato soup. Their hearty heat and serve Just Sauce line is made with simple ingredients and nothing else. From creamy tomato basil, marinara, and hot and spicy to roasted garlic, rosé, and Fort cheese. Find Mema Foods at your favorite grocery or specialty food stores like Vincenzo's or Brady's Meat and Deli. Check out their products at mema.ca and follow them on Instagram at Mema Foods International for all upcoming news and sales near you. Buen appetito! We are supported by Marie Sharp's Canada. Marie Sharp's Fine Foods have been making amazing all-natural pepper sauces in Belize since 1981. You've probably tried one of Marie Sharp's 18 signature hot sauces, available in stores and restaurants around the world, but they do so much more. They make fruit chutneys, a coconut spread, as well as 7 other amazing Caribbean jams and delicious green cactus salsa, and a line of tropical drinks to quench your thirst. Marie Sharp's Canada is about more than food, too. They give back to the community. They recently partnered with Canadian singer-songwriter Danny Michel to raise thousands of dollars for a high school in Belize, and they're currently looking for additional partners for more local and national fundraisers. Learn all about their products and their passions at mariesharpscanada.com and follow them on all the usual social channels. Thank you to Marie Sharp's Canada for helping our meals and our world become even better. Please go to mariesharps.com to order or to find further fundraising information on how to help your group or cause.
I'm borrowing my daughter's
That's what I figured.
for on school or online learning. So,
Oh my gosh, how's that going?
It's had its ups and downs. Like it's had its moments where it wasn't working very well, but it's all about the kids, like self-discipline, especially with parents like us. Like we're not overly in there checking every day, whatever. They've always been good students, so we've kind of left it to them. So there's been moments this year with my youngest that we realized that she's 12, so self discipline doesn't always come easy.
No way. I mean, I just struggle with it, especially having a cell phone, right?
Totally. Yeah. Well, and that's just it. Like you can take away any cell phone you want, but like in front of me and you, well, not you, but in front of me, I have the entire world. I could get as distracted as I want. And you'd only know because my answers would suck, not because
totally.
I'm looking right at you. So, yeah.
Did you watch that the social dilemma documentary on?
No, I haven't, because I don't want it was kind of like watching Super Size Me. It's like, fuck,
it's nothing you don't know. It just breaks it down in a simple way. But Mr. Marshall here, and you guys have met before, right?
No, never.
I'm so sorry.
Never in person.
Yeah.
Marshall, Nick Marshall.
On email. Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Yep.
His family doesn't do cell phones or social media. And it's been a real learning curve for Marshall to get on our social media and just even look at it to see what we've been up to for our podcast. So his family is totally on the other side of that spectrum of those distractions. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's wild. That's so unheard of these days. There are people that are disciplined about it, but they still do it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I found too lately, like, cause I have a day job now for the last 5 years. I need something that like occupies that busy part of my brain to keep me off my phone. So I need a podcast running, or I need music playing and out of my reach for pausing or looking at, emails or whatever, just to keep that busy part kind of going. And then I can focus on my tasks. I don't know. It's kind of a newfound need that I have being at home.
Well, here's what I found not having a phone. I'm in a situation this week where I'm looking for, do you know where UPS is on Trillium Drive?
I don't know.
UPS? Yeah. Anyways, I got a little bit lost up there. Yeah. So I have to pull over and ask a woman with her kid and walking the dog which way. And she was helpful, but people at this point must be thinking
like he's trying to kidnap me.
Why do you I know I'll be in a store, and it sure would be helpful if I could look up this item I'm considering buying, like a water cooler or something. And I don't have any means to, and I can see how handy that would be to just be able to read a review. And but I don't have anything.
For sure. But in the meantime, though, the world's like moving on without you. Like we as restaurateurs we're not putting menus on the table right away, right? We're expecting you to have a phone so you can scan the QR code. That's a COVID change, but the conversations we have when we're discussing those decisions are like, well, who doesn't have a phone anymore? So it's you. And directions.
It's Marshall.
That's crazy.
And his family.
And apparently it's Tony Labruto at Charles Quality Meats. Because when I asked him for an email, he said, I don't do email. I do everything by phone. I thought, how the heck do you run Charles Quality Meats?
He's making it work
without an email.
They run it like that though. They expect you to phone them, and you can text them all day long. Every time I text Tony or Sam, I get a response. Can I call you? And I'm like, oh shit. No, that's why I text. I know. But sure, we'll do that.
I my best friend called me this morning. She's like, give me 10 minutes. Please give me 10 minutes of your time. We haven't talked. And she's that 5 years older than me, like 50 range. So like, the phone is her jam, right? And it's just so hard for me. I was like, okay, like it's my best friend. I want to hear her voice and feel her love. But I was like, okay, I'll call you on the phone. It's just so like, I'd rather type it out like an idiot. I don't know, you know, sure. It's crazy. Anyway, we should probably actually start. All right, let's go. Nick Benninger, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Sarah, how did you and Nick meet?
Actually, Nick and I met, I was lucky enough to volunteer for Food Link for like a decade there when they were, Food Link Waterloo Region, when they were running these Taste Local, Taste Fresh events. And I was their event photographer. And I met you at I think the second one that I had been to. It's this wonderful event where farmers are paired with local restaurants or chefs, and they come up with these amazing tiny little dishes, and you go around for the whole day and try all these things out. So lucky me, got to eat and take pictures all day. And year after year, I would see you at this event. And then of course, start going to your restaurant. I was always so amazed. Like everyone comes up with something cool, right? It's always like a surprising, wonderful, kind of adventure of different foods, but you always had something for the vegetarian here. You know, there was always an offering for me, and I really appreciate that. And I know your wife, Nat, she would like yell at me from across the tent sometimes. We have something for you. Come over, come over. So I was always really grateful for that. But those were really cool events. That's the first time I remember meeting you. Yeah,
I think that's probably it. And I know, you know, forever I struggled with your last name because I would see it come across in the photograph. You know, we'd get the photographs from you or from Food Link or someone would have the watermark on it, and it would be your name. And like, how do you say that? It's funny that you asked me how to say my name. And yeah, those events are a blast. We always had a really good time. And, you know, the vegetarian thing is because like chefs, and I was probably like this when I was simply a chef and not a restaurant owner. But chefs are we have this really untouchable attitude where we've made some creation and we don't want the world to muck with it. So the concept of making a vegetarian version is like beyond reasonable. So once you make that transition over to owner, you start to realize, like, you start to look at things a little differently and have a different outlook on the customer experience, I think. And I obviously, having Natalie as my other half, you know, she's always provided that front of house point of view directly to me with no filter and no punches held back. So I've been well aware from the beginning that you got to accommodate these folks, especially at an event like that, because if you're a vegetarian, if you're gluten-free or whatever it is, you might show up expecting to sample all 20 chefs, and you only get to sample a handful of them. So, I mean, that's a disappointing thing. So I'm glad it resonated with you, and I'm glad that approach that we take to customer service works, because we really do, you know, our opportunity as chefs and restaurateurs is to provide these special moments for people, right? And if you show up to that special moment and you get some either half-assed version of it or nothing at all, it can be quite disappointing. So we've always valued that opportunity that we have as the host, even though that was, you know, we're one of many hosts. But yeah, I'm glad that worked and resonates with you. So I'm happy to hear that. And I think you've taken one of my favorite photos of all time a few years ago at Taste Fresh, Taste Local.
All right, hang on a second. I'm sweating and blushing. This is fantastic.
Well, I hope it was you that took it. You did Taste Fresh, Taste Local, like right up until the end?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, so then it was. So the year that I did, I had all the fish balancing on sticks. I had those whole fish balancing, and you came up and offered to take a picture of my family, because we had the whole family there. So, you know, we've come to know each other. So as kind as you always are, you said, hey, do you guys want a quick portrait? And you snapped a pic, and Jeff from T&J Seafood was our farm partner that year, and he's a good friend of ours. And he just photobombed in the background with the most ridiculous face you could ever make. And the four of us as a family made this really great photo that would have been a perfect, like, you know, greeting card or something like that. And then you've got Jeff photobombing it in the background in such a funny, candid way. And you captured like the most perfect moment. I honestly, more than once, I've gone back to find that photo and just like enjoy the moment, because it was a fun day and it captured it perfectly. So.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love to hear that.
Nick, I was reading a column of yours in the community edition. Yeah. And I think this is how the story goes. Were you and your family in Hawaii before the pandemic?
Yeah, we were in it during sort of right at the beginning of it. So we left Canada minutes before, you know, it became official that you shouldn't, kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
So I found this a riveting column. First of all, there's some self-effacing humor in there sometimes, and about your own writing, but I think your writing's excellent. And
I agree.
but also it struck me that so here's a guy who's brave enough to leave his restaurants to go to Hawaii so his family can enjoy themselves, and then the whole everything goes sideways. But I thought, isn't that something that you're actually able to go on a vacation when a lot of people in your position just wouldn't even try that, and then there you are, basically trapped, not being able to get back to your restaurants.
Yeah, and then that's the part that it's like, it's sort of so fitting that it happened, yet it's also, it feels like such a ripoff. Every once in a while, I think back on the beginning of the pandemic. You get those moments where something takes you back to like a place and instantly your mind's like transported. So that'll happen from time to time, and I'll remember that Hawaiian vacation, and it's just such a fucking ripoff. Like, we don't get many vacations, as you alluded to, and that one was probably the first real vacation. Like, we'll do a weekend here, a weekend there, get some time off to go to the cottage in the summer, but a real vacation where you board a plane and you have a travel visa or whatever it is, we haven't done that. I think the last time we went was 2013, which was ironically cut about 4 days short due to a strike, airline strike. So this one was so overdue, and Hawaii is like this destination that you're not going to get a chance to repeat it over and over again. It's quite an easy place to go, but it's not the cheapest place to go. So this was a real like trip of a lifetime. And unfortunately it got rather cut short. And the time that we did have there wasn't just cut short. It was trespassed on by these ridiculous moments. So that was quite something. And, for all those reasons, it'll probably be one of the most memorable trips I've ever had, but not for the right ones. And I'd like to go back someday, for sure. But it was bad. And being in those places, we went to Pearl Harbor on, I think it was the 12th or something like that, the 11th or the 12th. So like, there we are in this place, squeezing between doorways that are about this big in aisles and aisles of all kinds of people who are generally probably to this day haven't donned a mask. So yeah, there we were in Pearl Harbor, right as things were really getting crazy, like the NBA and the NHL canceling games, like things that made it like, holy shit, this isn't going away. And I think it was 2 days later that Trudeau went on the air and said, you really come home. If you're abroad, come home. And at that point, we started to do everything we could to get home, but it was quite a thing to pull off as well. And in the meantime, we had closed every restaurant we had. We went from about 250 employees down to about 20 in a snap of a finger. It was something else. And there we were trying to have this vacation, trying to salvage what we could of it for the kids. You're still totally in fear of what this virus was, because the education of the general public at the time was super slim. So yeah, it was quite a thing. I don't care to repeat it, and I think I lost a couple of years. Like, I think I aged a bit during that. Yeah, it was something. It was the most amazing feeling coming home of all time, though, and I think that's one of the things I tried to sort of express in that column was like, I never felt so good to come home again before and get that control back in your life. And, you talk about people like me and getting away on vacation. And one of the reasons we never do is because we're control obsessed, we're control freaks. And that's why you end up running your own business. So whether it was losing control of my family decisions or my personal, transport and travel, or my businesses, it was a lot of loss of control. So coming home, making that first meal, just having the ability to chill out on your own time, even though we were facing the 2 weeks of quarantine, it was the best feeling, I think, of the year, probably. So
Marshall started that with talking about your column. I love the name of it, 519 Schmecks in Community Edition. So Schmecks, for anyone that doesn't know, is the famous phrase for the Edna Stabler, our local hero of culinary things. My mother had that cookbook, The Food That Really Schmecks, in our home. We had one of those Brady Bunch ovens that's in the wall, at torso height. It was fantastic. And that book was worn and covered in oil and, very well loved. I think it's with one of my sisters now.
Yeah, I just, they told me I needed a name for my column. And I love Edna Stabler. I love the phrase "food that really schmecks," because it's like, how do you tell someone you're from KW without telling them? Kind of moment. And you can really pick out the people who know their local history, or even their foodies or not. I mean, she was such a good writer and such a good community member. You know, they literally, so Beth, the editor, and at the time, we met up and I said, hey, I want to start writing this column. Is that something I can do? She was like, yeah, but we can't pay you. Like, and I said, I just want a place to write, and I want to learn how to write. I want someone to help me, because I've written lots, but everything I write just goes straight to whatever content we're putting up. So I was really excited about that. So I think it was after submitting my piece, having it edited a few times, submitting a photograph or something to go along with it. And then she's like, oh, this is going off now. What are you calling it? So I just didn't have much time to think. And I mostly do my best writing and producing when I have no time to think, as I think that's when you're just like spewing out what's coming to your mind. And I love the region, and I've always been super passionate about the area. And, you know, you can't say Waterloo, you can't say Kitchener, it doesn't sum it up. So 519 has always been the way to describe where we are. And I just kind of put the two together, and it seems to have resonated. And I thought it was ambiguous enough, but those who might know would also understand the context.
On the subject of names, I remember, Nick, when I first saw the Taco Farm sign, and I remember thinking, that's an odd name. I wonder what that's all about. And everything about it visually, it's very minimal, and it's orange, and then it's got this really interesting font, right?
Yeah, which I always thought sort of spoke back to its original, like to the Canada Trust colors. Is that true or no?
You know what? No, but that's an awesome. That is an awesome leap. And we did have a Johnny Cash sign inside the restaurant for where the Johnny on the cash, Johnny on the spot cash machine used to be. So I mean, I can see how you draw those connections. John Johnson helped us with the logo, and he did an amazing job with it. And we, you know, when we talked to him about the logo, we said, you know, by then we had come up with the name, which was a process of its own. I think me and Natalie and Ryan, my partner at the time, spent a few weeks kind of rolling names around, and like some really dumb ones. I have a saved document with the short list of names that we had going at the time, and some of them were really bad and would have been real like slices of time, you know, not the kind of name that would have survived 7-9 years. But at one point, Ryan suggested Taco Machine, because we had that tortilla machine right in the restaurant, which we've since moved to the Stone Crock in St. Jacobs. But at the time it was right there. And he said, what about Taco Machine? And we were kind of like, yeah, you know, I like that. The idea of just churning out tacos, and we make tacos and that's the thing we do. But machine is like the last thing you'd ever want to associate a restaurant with. So then we just did kind of the opposites game and said, you know, where do you go from there? And farm came up, and just the imagery right away, you could start sort of drawing pictures. And it's ambiguous, but it certainly paints a picture. And then we handed it over to John Johnson, who has done so much awesome work locally, whether it's his own or with other people. And he kind of played around with it, and we established that barn look that we really liked the look of the barn. We wanted something that had a standalone sort of image of its own, that being the sort of logo without the words. And we loved the fact that it had this barn. We could immediately picture it on a hat or a ball cap or whatever. And he went from there, and he came up with the font. And you know, the font's been kind of controversial because the T and the F, which create that sort of bullhorn look in the middle of the logo. But people have often accused of saying it says Faco Farm, not Taco Farm. It's Faco Farm.
I've never seen that. I can't even.
Yeah, I think it takes a special kind of person to make that
special imagination.
And yeah, we've always really loved the logo. It kind of worked right away. People immediately would come into the restaurant and think this was already a brand. It wasn't something that was a one-off. Mm-hmm. They thought it was something they had seen before, which I think, and I'm not a pro. I've just sort of won it my whole life, but we thought that was a real success story when people said, hey, I recognize this brand. You guys have more than one location. We assumed that meant we had come up with something that had that sort of, you know, Coca-Cola kind of power. So
totally agree.
I recently learned that there are only 2 countries in the entire world that don't sell Coca-Cola.
What are they?
Cuba and North Korea.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So talking about Taco Farm, you've got your hand. You're a busy dude. You've got your hands in a lot of things. You've got Taco Farm, Nick and Nat's, Jacob's Grill, Stone Crock, And then you were running Harmony Lunch and Marbles and all part of this Fat Sparrow Group. Is everything part of this Fat Sparrow Group?
Yeah, that's all part of it. And we've got Fat Sparrow at Killbear, another restaurant and small grocery store up north.
Right.
We've got our online services. We've got the bakery and the butcher shop. Yeah, it's a diverse group of things and kitchens to get lost in. So.
But you're also on Uptown Waterloo BIA. Is that right?
Yeah. And the St. Jacobs BIA.
Then you're writing for Community Edition. What have we missed? What else are you doing?
I try and make videos when I can, but there hasn't been a lot of time for that lately. I've always wanted to have a podcast, but the dedication it takes has kept me out of it for now. And I try and fit in being a father and husband somewhere in amongst all of that as well. So
the most important jobs.
Nick, we have Mark Logan, the owner of Encore Records, coming up as a guest. Mm-hmm. And I've talked to Mark over the years, and I said, did you ever consider opening another Encore Records, especially not now, but let's go back 20 years kind of thing. And he always talked about trust. He said, well, it's really hard. He goes, I've got this one store and I run it as well as I can. And I trust a few people. He said, but as soon as you expand and get bigger and bigger, it becomes an issue where you have to really be able to trust the people to look after your business. You must have at some point early on overcome that idea and thought, I'm just going to go for it over and over again. Yeah,
for sure. And I'd like to point out that I spent a lot of time in the original location on what would it have been, Queen or Ontario, of Encore Records when I was cutting class at St. Mary's in downtown Kitchener.
Same.
So thanks, Mark, for that. I think for us, it was kind of easy. And, we were running Uptown 21 for 3 or 4 years when we started to think about a second business. And in that period of time, I think our core staff, like if we had 15 staff members at Uptown 21, 12 of them were with us from day one until probably year 3 or 4. And we started to see some turnover, but the core group, my chef, my sous chef, they were with us for so long, and their front of house staff. So for us, it was sort of like we had this group who we looked at and thought, if I don't create a larger ceiling for all of us, then you're going to leave me. And I'd like to provide a career for you. I'd like to provide a longer career path than just the 2 or 3 years that's typically spent in a kitchen or a front of house. So we were kind of course, the wheels are always turning. We're entrepreneurs. We want to open other businesses. We probably had come up with 100 concepts in 100 nights, and, you just throw them over your shoulder because you don't have time. And at some point it was like, we have this core group that could run this place without us. And that's not really an option because I'm not going anywhere. So how do we fix that? So we started the discussion of starting a second business. And we, even at that time, we got halfway down the road once, almost signed a lease on a place in downtown Kitchener to open up like a gourmet pizza and pasta place. And then we chickened out and we backed away from it. And at the time, another local business person who we ended up being partners with found out about that and came to us and said, hey, if you guys want to open another business, let's do it. Let's do it together. And he kind of had certain skills that we didn't have. So it was sort of like the worlds came together in a way that allowed us to take a risk and try it. And it certainly wasn't easy. But then as soon as you do it, it kind of is easy because then, that business, Taco Farm, became such a commitment and such a distraction that there was no really looking back. And they were doing such a great job sort of with us in and out of the scene that we didn't have anything to worry about. And, we did have customers that would say it's not the same as it is with you guys there. And outside of my personality, I always said it was better. Like these guys are doing a better job than we were doing when we were there because they're focused on nothing else but the food and the drinks and the service, whereas we had these split focuses. And I honestly maintain to this day that the staff we left in place to carry the legacy on for the next couple of years did as good a job or better than we were doing at the time. So yeah, it's a tough thing. And I think obviously there are certain personalities that aren't gonna make that leap, but we certainly did. And then once you do it the first time, it's kind of like you just don't stop. You just keep doing it, and you learn that people will move on and leave you, and you can replace them. It'll never be quite the same because the personalities and the service industry are so important. there are always sort of new people waiting to take those places and step up and learn what it takes to do those jobs. And that was something too that, nowadays the concept of having to replace key employees is, I don't look forward to it and I don't want it, but it doesn't scare me like it used to, because I know that things roll on, and more often than not, you improve because of it, because you have these fresh eyes coming in. So yeah, you got to let go and live within the controlled chaos and not worry about all of that trust and control all the time, because you can't do that anyways. I mean, maybe at a place like a record shop you can, and that, like, just thinking about that now for a second sounds really nice, to sit there and like have that type of control. And the way he curates his music selection, I'm sure it's key to his success. But yeah, we've learned to go and move, and we have a great team around us. So
this management style or philosophy is reminding me a little bit of when we spoke to Lena Shamoun of Artline Salons. She had a term for it, sort of.
Is it quiet leadership?
I think that's what it was. Quiet leadership, sort of that letting go and trusting, like, we're a team, like, and it's all going to fall apart if we don't behave that way. And if I don't, as the owner and manager, also sweep the floor when it needs to be done, type of thing, right? We're all in it sort of together.
For sure. And if you think, and again, Encore Records is probably a unicorn or a different species here, but if you think you alone are the reason your business is successful, if you're more than 2 or 3 employees, then you're wrong. You're just wrong, and your plan is flawed, because at some point you can't do it. What if you need to go away? What if you need a vacation? What if you get sick? Like, that's just not going to work forever. You got to move on. I think I don't quote Gordon Ramsay very often, but he was once interviewed by someone, and they asked him, you've got 40 restaurants now. Who's cooking the food when you're not there? And he said, the same people that cook the food when I am there. And he said, you're wearing a Giorgio Armani shirt. Do you think he stitched the buttons on it? And the guy was just kind of like, I mean, but if you want to run a business like that, you certainly can. It's just going to be limited to it's not going to grow, which is totally fine for some folks. But, we knew at the time, if we wanted to put our kids through college, if we wanted to someday be able to not work every Friday, Saturday night, we would have to grow from this tiny little mom and pop, open kitchen, names on the sign type of restaurant. We would have to grow and evolve from that eventually. And we certainly have transitioned. And now, in fact, that restaurant's a thing of the past, and it's no longer ours. And, although I'm certainly the face of the business, I don't think people look at the business the same way they did when it was Uptown 21. They don't walk into Stonecroc Bakery and expect to see me back there. The training and the team building and the way that we design our businesses to run under any leadership. So, yeah.
We were talking to Jessie Votary of Ramshackle Industries. They run a handful of restaurants in Stratford. And we were so moved by something that she said, which was...
Yeah, it's kind of like opening a restaurant. That's somebody's dream.
Yeah.
But there comes a time when that restaurant has run its course, and it's okay to let it go and not get hung up on who's going to take over. How is this going to live on forever?
Or is it going to be a dress shop or whatever? And
just being okay with the idea that this is the winter now of its existence and life, and letting it go.
Like it ran its course. It was a beautiful thing. We said goodbye and we're moving on to the next thing. And you must feel elements of that for sure.
Oh, for sure. I mean, and especially this year, we've had to close a few. And, with ones that you don't control that arc, it's less enjoyable. It wasn't fun to close Harmony Lunch, and then to have to close Marbles this year was not fun. But with Uptown 21, it had its glory. It had its heyday. It was a fantastic restaurant. People still to this day, speak fondly of it. In fact, many don't know it's not open. They say, "Oh, I
actually didn't know when you just said that."
Back. Yeah. So and we feel really good about putting it behind us, because there's nothing worse than trying to keep pumping life into something that, it's become clear it's not there anymore. And if you look at your favorite TV series, I'm quite certain they had a 3, 4, 5 season arc to them. The Breaking Bad is not one of the greatest shows of all time because it went on forever, like Grey's Anatomy. It's great because they said, this is how it's going to work. And this is when we're going to kill it, and we're not bringing it back.
Yeah. You leave on that super high note and you want more and you just always remember wanting more.
Right. But we all know that those writers, or I hope they do, but they'll write more amazing stuff, and we will open more amazing restaurants. And yeah, they have their time, and there's a natural arc to restaurants. And even if you're going to keep one around forever, if you look at places like the Charcoal Group, they don't go away, but they do close their restaurants every 4 or 5 years, completely renovate them, do a whole new menu, and relaunch them. And they might as well be brand new restaurants. So if you're not opening and letting that arc happen and then closing, you're probably doing a serious reinvention that is going to cost as much money and ruffle as many of your regular customers' feathers anyway. So yeah, we were happy to be able to put Uptown behind us. And actually, I met Jessie through Uptown.
Great.
She was a fantastic customer in very often, and we've become good friends since then. And those are the memories that exist, and that the people I've met and the opportunities I've had, and the rest of the Fat Sparrow Group wouldn't exist if it weren't for the opportunities we created at Uptown. It's very nice to have it put behind us now, because you just let it rest like a memory.
I just want to add a fun fact here. Jessie is married to my nephew.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Right on. I've
Small
never
world.
met him.
So
yeah,
you'll love him.
Nick, I love the village of St. Jacobs, but I always think how precarious it must be for a business to be down there. I think so. The village, much like the farmers market, the village of St. Jacobs has amazing, beautiful summer days, right? They have beautiful days in the spring, beautiful days in the fall. St. Jacobs sparkles in the winter can be magical, right? But then there are other times where that village is just a frozen desert, right? Like there's nobody down there. It's a huge contrast between buses coming in from Niagara Falls and Buffalo of tourists and bustling and excitement, and then just nothing going on. And I once heard, I think at Exclusive Elements, they had a stretch of days where not one customer comes in sometimes. How stressful is that to have a business in the village?
Yeah, I mean, it's a different kind of stress, because we've had days that, I've probably, every restaurant I've ever worked in my entire life, I've had a day where you get skunked, and it's rare, but it happens. Those are really stressful, because you're like, what the hell is happening? What have I done wrong? What changed? When you have a schedule that is going to be slow, it's less stressful from like a panic point of view, from a budgeting point of view, from a trying to make sure you survive, from a, watching your bank account through October, November, December, and making sure you hit that level you're supposed to hit so you can survive to lose. We lose, I think in St. Jacobs alone, we lose something like $350,000 in about 4 months, from January till March, and then we start to crawl back out of that hole. And then come fall, we start to actually earn money again. And if we don't earn enough, if the bank account's not padded enough, then that cycle, you end up actually falling off the cliff in that cycle. So it's nice because you can kind of schedule it, the calendar, but it is stressful, of course. Now, I will say we took on the Stonecrock Group in 2018. I worked at the Benjamins in St. Jacobs, which was part of the Stonecrock Group at the time, in the early 2000s. I was well aware of the cycles of the business. I spent about 5 years there as the head chef. And one of the reasons we took the challenge on and acquired the Stonecrock Group was because we knew how strong it was during those months. And we also knew that not much effort was being put into making it strong for the rest of those months. And that can be said for almost the entire village. A lot of the shop owners almost enjoy the fact that there's this 3 or 4 month time off. And, they limit the hours of their stores, and they might take their vacations and all that kind of stuff. But I know that nobody, if you ask the average person when the last time they went to St. Jacobs was from KW or from the 519, their answer is usually like, oh, I went to the market maybe a year ago. I say, no. When did you go to St. Jacobs last? And they say, well, what do you mean? It's the same thing. Say, no, it's not. In fact, the market's in Waterloo. The village is over here. It's a totally different thing. And eventually they'll say, oh, we're at block 3 or the bakery is. And we say, yeah, okay. And then they're on board, but they hadn't been there. Like nobody goes to St. Jacobs locally. So we knew that there was this huge opportunity to make that line flatten a little bit. It'll never be as busy as it is in the summer, but we can start to draw on local tourism to come out there and enjoy themselves in the village. And whether it's have a nice meal or do some shopping or have an afternoon. And I mean, it is a desolate winter village, but it's only as cold as it is in downtown Kitchener. You just happen to have people and animation happening that makes the place feel warmer. So we were and remain quite confident, and in that way, COVID is almost helped it a little bit. That we will start to transition some of that tourism to be from locals who are coming out to see, you know what, it's just a nice day in the village. It's no different than going to Elora or somewhere else like that. We're confident that, you know, we have a number of the storefronts in St. Jacobs. So even just our own efforts will start to transform that. And I'm on the BIA as we talked about earlier. And so again, I have that ability to contribute and help control the way the village is sort of thriving. And it is a thriving village. But we see no need to have these big down seasons. We don't want to lay off our employees from January to March, you know, and we'd love to sort of put an end to that. So we're confident it'll happen. And like I said, COVID's almost been good that way. I can't even, like, you can't say that full sentence without stopping for a second. But there's been that plus side of COVID that local folks have been looking to go out and experience things that are within driving distance of their homes. Mm-hmm. So we've seen a ton of more traffic in the village from people within the 519. And we're grateful for that opportunity because we know we're delivering a great experience, and they'll probably come back sooner. So yeah, it's a challenge, but it's something that we try and look at it as an upside. So,
hey, talk to us about tequila.
Well, that'll eat up the rest of the time on this call. I love tequila. I just like everyone else in the world, probably, I had terrible experiences with tequila in my youth, and I would probably never want to drink it again. And generally speaking, the tequila that's poured at most bars is total. It belongs in the sewer. It's garbage. It's terrible for your body. It tastes crappy. It's got a whole bunch of ingredients that don't belong in there. Real tequila, which is, you know, made from 100% blue Weber agave and is very tightly controlled by the government's rules and the sort of traditions that go behind it. It deserves to be on the same plateau as Scotch and champagne and red wine and these things that we hold up to such hallowed heights. You know, for a couple of reasons, one being just the experiences we've had make it something that everyone just says, nah, it's garbage. I don't want that stuff. But the stuff they serve in bars isn't even the same. It's made with corn sugars instead of agave. It's not even remotely comparable, other than the fact that they are allowed to call it tequila. So we, you know, when we opened Taco Farm and we were developing the concept, we knew we wanted to have this amazing array of tequilas. So like any good chef or good anybody, I suppose, the first thing I did was started just to research it and buy bottles and research it and drink it and read about it. You know, it was pretty early on in Taco Farm's time. We weren't selling as much tequila as we wanted to, because you just never do. But we, you know, one of our servers, Ryan Horn, which I think, Sarah, you actually know Ryan.
Yes, my husband Steve knows him. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Ryan, one of our servers and another good friend, said, hey, you should think about doing these events, tequila schools, because he'd witness me in the dining room. Someone would say, nah, I don't drink tequila. Do you have any Scotch? And then I'd kind of pontificate to them for a few minutes and say, oh, you don't like tequila, you racist bastard, or whatever. I'd go off. You know, he said, you should be hosting a tequila school. You should sell 6 or 8 tickets, put them in the back room or the back corner. You can talk to them. You can serve a 5-course menu or whatever, serve them a bunch of tequilas. And, you know, we said, that's a pretty darn good idea. So we hosted one. I think our first class had 12 people at it or something like that. And they absolutely loved it. And we did another one and it had about 30 or 40 people at it and they loved it. And then we started just blacking out the restaurant. We would close for these to do them privately. And, you know, people just loved it because it's, you know, for one, it's a great culinary and you know, drink experience. It's just a wonderful time to go out and have these very thoughtfully curated tequila lists and food menus, and the discussions that would come along with them, I think really opened people's minds up to the spirit and to spirits in general, because it has a ton in common with how all spirits are made. It's just sort of starting with different ingredients. So I love it. We're doing tequila schools virtually now. We did our first one a couple of weeks ago and it was a big success. I wasn't sure how it would go. It's tough to host a Zoom call tequila school because no one laughs at my jokes, or if they do, I don't know they're laughing at my jokes because it's just like 50 little screens. But it went really well and we were really happy with it. And I'll continue to wear that hat as local tequila spokesperson, because I just think it's an amazing beverage. It has such a variety of flavors, and you get into mezcals and sotals and all the other things that go along with it. It's just such a great beverage, and it's so underappreciated, especially locally in this part of Ontario, because of course our Mexican population is not very big, and so there's no one else out there doing this job. So yeah, it's been a ton of fun, and I love being associated with things. I get associated with like fried chicken and donuts and tequila. It's a good hat to wear.
So Waterloo Region was founded on farming, and I'm amazed by how many farms you work with. And I mean, like when you live here, there's a lot of people who know about certain farms. People know about Charles Quality Meats and Martin's Family Fruit Farm, but you work with some amazing farms like Stavanis. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
And maybe farms that aren't as well known. Anyways, can you kind of tell me about your relationship with farmers? I'm sure there's much easier ways you could go about running your restaurants that don't involve farmers, but tell us about how that works and how you build these relationships with the farming community.
Yeah, so I mean, it's something I've always believed in is missing from, at least was missing from the Canadian sort of culinary landscape. And if we were ever going to be known for a cuisine, it would have to involve our agriculture and how varied it can be across the country. And I spent a lot of time working not in KW in the beginning of my apprenticeship in my early years. And anyone would hear about KW, you're from there, they'd say, like, no wonder you've moved to Niagara or whatever. There's nowhere to work there. There's no food there. There's no, what the hell do you have? Oktoberfest. So I developed this chip on my shoulder of like, you know what, I'm always going to support local because I love my local. And even if it's not going to be KW, I'm going to find ways to support it. And you're just going to get better food and all that kind of stuff. So I made it a part of my sort of mission statement that no one cared about, but it was up there early on. And so I was running Benjamin's restaurant in St. Jacobs. And I had there's probably two stories that really encapsulate my commitment and why I do it so much and why I love it so much. So one was, it was New Year's Eve and I wanted to serve beef. I wanted a T-bone on my New Year's Eve menu. It was the first New Year's Eve menu I got to write. So I was super pumped about it, and it's always a big night. So I wanted to order T-bone steaks, and I wanted them to be local beef so that I could list on the menu farm name. And so I reached out to Oak Ridge Acres. So Mark and Cindy Gerber, and Cindy just passed away. So,
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that.
well, that's okay. Anyways, I reached out to them and made a phone call and said, this is what I want to do. And I thought they'd just be salivating over the opportunity to sell all these steaks. I wanted like 120 10 or 12 ounce New York cut from their Black Angus herd. And I think I got Cindy on the phone first, and she was super enthusiastic and very happy. And then she said, I'll have to get Mark to call you back because there might be some complications. So Mark calls me back and explains to me, and Mark, who is like the nicest man of all time, but he certainly looks like he's an intimidating looking man. His face, his skin is constantly just tan from the sun because I think he spends every waking moment outdoors working. He's a gruff fellow, and he's just got this presence. So I get him on the phone, and I'm immediately intimidated. And he explains to me that, you can't, I only farm this many cows and I only kill this many at a time. And so I can't physically give you that many T-bone steaks because that would take up half my herd. And I the wheels start turning, and I start to realize like, if you're going to work with small farms, the chef just can't pick up the phone and say, I want this and I want it yesterday. You have to find this like symbiotic working relationship that'll help everyone. So they managed to make it work for me for New Year's Eve because they really wanted to make this sale and start this relationship. And they have been huge supporters of the local food movement and Food Link, and you go on and on. And so they made it work for me, and I was super impressed, and we sold the steaks and everything was great. And then I called them afterwards and said, I get it now, and I'd like to keep working with you. And I work for this group that has these other restaurants. So we had the Stone Croc, and we had Vidalia's, it was called at the time. And I said, what if I start bringing in whole cows from you? and you guys butcher them to my spec like they do, and I can work with it because I can keep all the nice cuts for Benjamins, so we can get the expensive grilling things and all that kind of stuff. We can send the ground meat to here, and we can send the stewing meat to here, because with this network of restaurants, I've got this ability to use it. And they were like, both of us, just like light bulbs went off, and that's how it worked. And we did that for the rest of the time I was at Benjamin's. We would get a minimum of 1 cow a month, and it worked fantastically. And I got my dream of serving local, and they got their job of not having these cuts left over, and it was great. So that was going really well. The next story I'll tell is driving. I used to ride my bike from work, so I would bike from Kitchener to St. Jacobs and then bike home after work. So I would often stop at the farmer's market on my way and pick up a few things. So one day I stopped and met the Stevanises. They had an outdoor booth, and I bought a few things. They had amazing produce. Again, like incredible people. Dale's not the intimidating force that Mark is, but Dale is an entirely different character. And again, like huge advocates and they're responsible for so much growth in the local food scene that way, where chefs get all the credit. But Linda and Dale and their perseverance and tenacity, they deserve a lot of credit. So I stopped at their booth, and I said, I want to start buying local from you guys more often. What do you do with all your stuff when you're done at the end of the market? And they said, well, we take it back. We've got some CSA boxes. Linda tries to make certain things into preserves, but oftentimes we just take it to a soup kitchen or a food bank of some kind. I think their local church, I forget the name of it. So anyways, I said, what if you, not to cut in the middle there and rob food from good people, but I said, what if you came by Benjamin's on your way home from the market every market day, and I just bought everything that you had left over, because I can use it, and I don't have time to get on the phone and ask you guys what you have currently. And I know it's beautiful stuff no matter what. So what if you just drop off everything you've got left? Can you give me a workable price that works well for me? And they were super pumped. Again, it was just like, okay, here's a guy that gets it. And yeah, we can definitely work with you, because you're not asking us to produce you strawberries for 11 months of the year, and you never want our green beans, So that was that. And we started working together, and we still work together. They're a part of the family, really. And it's just like, it makes it harder, yeah, but it also makes it easier, and it gives you the drive and the desire to keep doing things and keep growing as a chef. And it gives my chefs good respect for the ingredients, because they get these opportunities to work with things where they know the person who pulled it out of the ground, and they don't want to waste any of it. So it's just the way it should be, and that's the way I try and look at it, is like, it's more of an obligation. And I think if we want to have the type of food community, and I won't even say culinary scene, because it's not about like food that happens in restaurants, it's also about food that happens in homes. But if we want to have the kind of food scene that you see and food culture that you see in countries that we envy from a culinary point of view, then we'll never get there if we don't all start cooking like that.
Hey all, thanks for meeting us in Bonn Park. Please like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast on the platform that you're listening to. And follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Bonn Park Podcast. Original music by Alan Lung.